Hello and welcome to class. I'm Trish Triumpho Sullivan, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make a picture plane and the viewfinders that you're going to need for class. So to start off with, this is what you want to end up with, right? It's a clear plastic, and you can see that I've just used some old scraps of mat board that I've cut. And you can, as you look at it, you can see that it's not like anything super fancy, okay? I think you can kind of tell that it's been put together with clear tape, some scraps of mat board, and a clear plastic window, okay? So the materials that I needed for this are a piece of clear plastic, and I have some clear plastic for you guys to use. So this just has a piece of paper on it, right, to protect it from getting scratched up. But I do have some available. I'm keeping it at my bookstore in downtown. So if you need to come and pick up a piece of clear plastic, I've got some for you, okay? So just don't stress about that. So you'll need that, and you'll need some kind of cardboard. I'm going to cannibalize today an old FedEx envelope that has, it's, you know, the cardboard is, it's a little bit stiffer than paper, right? But it's also, oops, there's still something in there. Let me take that out. But there's also just enough flexibility to make this work. So, so materials, let's write them down really quick on the board for you guys. So this is to make the picture plane. So you'll need some cardboard. And I don't really care, it can be thicker cardboard, whatever you can get a hold of, okay? Clear plastic. And the plastic has to be thick enough that you can draw on it. That's the whole point, because you'll be using a fine-tipped Expo marker, okay, for that. So clear plastic, tape, a black Sharpie, hopefully a fine point one so you can make a decent line with it. Let's see, what else do you need to make this? Oh, you'll also need, for the viewfinder, you'll need a little bit of kind of stiffer paper, like this is like kind of cardstock. So a little bit heavier duty piece of paper that you're going to be making your viewfinder with. So this is for the picture plane. Picture plane, it's this stuff. Okay. So let's get started really quick. You also need a pair of scissors. So here we go. I'm just going to cut off. I just need a little bit to make the edges. So I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut off one edge or two edges here. All right. Whoops. And one edge here, which each of these edges will make two. So this will work out pretty well for me. But there we go. Okay, so I've cannibalized my FedEx to get a couple of pieces each. So let's see here. This should work just fine. So now I'm going to cut this one in half. Like I said, this does not have to be fancy. And this one was already two pieces, so I'm just going to cut that right there. So I have 4 pieces of cardboard. This isn't the thickest cardboard. I'd like it to be a little thicker than this, but this is what I got on hand, so this is what I'm going to be using. So if you can use something, if you can upcycle something, right, something you'd normally like throw out in the recycling bin or the garbage, do that. Don't go buy stuff if you don't have to, okay? So when I'm done with this, I'm going to take my plastic and I'm going to tape these guys around the edge like that to make my kind of frame to hold it stiff so I can use it. So to do this, I'm going to cut this down just a little bit because they don't need to be quite that long. I'm going to take a piece of tape, or a couple pieces because it's kind of hard for me to do this with one big long piece. And I'm going to put some tape on the edge of this, on the edge of these pieces of cardboard. So just kind of going down the edge here. So I prefer to use the wider like packing tape, the clear packing tape, but I don't have any, so this is what I'm using. I'm going to use, this is, you know, making the best use. You could also use regular tape, right? It doesn't have to be clear tape, but this is what I happen to have on hand here at home. So once I get one side taped, I'm going to place it overlapping the edge. So notice the tape's here, and I'm not putting it right on the edge. I'm overlapping it a little bit so I can use this cardboard as a stiffener for my picture plane, right? So I'm just going to tape it on. I'm going to do the same thing with the other sides. All right, we'll get some tape really quick, get this thing taped up. All right, so we'll do the same thing over here. I'm going to overlap it slightly. All right, there we go. Have that tape on there. Whoops, it's a little crooked. Let me just realign that there so it's not completely off base. There we go. Okay, and I'll do the same thing with the sides here. Put a little tape on them. If you can't get really thick cardboard that's heavy, that seems like it's heavy enough to do this, you can try using 2 pieces together, right, to make it a little bit more sturdy. So do the same thing with this one. I'm going to place this on the side here. Right? Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to work. That's the important thing. And let's do one more. Get the final side here. A little bit challenged with tape today. Right, so if we were doing this in class, I'd have clear packing tape for you, and normally we kind of do this as a team, so one person cuts the tape and pieces of tape, and then everyone can use the pieces of tape to do this project. Okay, so here we go, right there. It needs to be back this way just a little. All right, so there we go. I've got a pretty decent frame for my picture plane. So the next thing that you need to do, and for this you'll need the Sharpie part. You're going to make a window pane on it, right? So I want you to measure it to make sure it's in the center. I'm not going to measure right now because I just want to do it so you can see what I'm doing. So on the side that you're not using, so this will be the back side here. the white will be the back side. Right? You're going to draw a window pane. So it's just like a crosshairs. So I'm just going to do it so kind of freehand here. Oh, actually, I'll use something to as my guide, and I'm going to put it on a pad so that I have a little bit of something to kind of hold it up here. So basically, what I'm doing here is I'm drawing a crosshairs on the back side with a fine point black Sharpie. And I'm using just a piece of paper to be my guide here. Right, so there's one. And I'm just eyeballing the center here. I want it to be kind of centered. So, and then here's the other crosshair. I'm going to draw it in really quick. Right. So as you can see now, I have a picture plane. This is the back side. I've drawn a crosshair on with a Sharpie, and then that's the front side I'm going to be using, right? And this is just the picture plane. The next thing we need to do is make the viewfinder. And the viewfinder is basically a little frame, right? This is the picture plane, right? And this is your frame, right? Your viewfinder. And that's going to clip over the top of your viewfinder. So to make this cutout, you're going to take that piece of cardstock, and it can be thicker than this. It could be construction paper. Black construction paper works really well. You know, just whatever you can find, okay? But it should be kind of heavy so that it's not just like a loose piece of paper, right? And then you're going to cut it on the fold. So here's the paper folded, right? And you're gonna cut on the fold. So watch what I'm doing. I'm making, just by eyeballing, but I ask you to measure. You're gonna do a picture plane that has 1 inch and, 1.5, and then or 1 inch, and then a 2 inch opening, or sides, I should say. So 1.5 and 2 inches, and you can see I'm just cutting, right? Just cutting a little rectangle out. So I end up with this from the middle, and then this is my picture plane. Right? So I want you to have 2 sizes. So you can see I have one that's like 1 inch and one that's like about 1.5 to 2 inches. Right? And what you do with these is when you have your picture plane, you clamp this over with these kind of clips, right? These little binder clips. You clamp these over your picture plane, and this is your what you're going to be drawing from, right? So you're going to use this. So ideally, I usually have 4 clips, but I'm just doing a quick demo here. So you can see I just have 2 clips, right? And so that is a basic picture plane with your viewfinder, right? So the viewfinder, to make your viewfinder, you're going to need, let's see, we'll do it different. You're going to need cardstock, 2 sheets. And you might be able just to go buy a couple sheets from a copy place like Kinko's or something. They'll just sell you a couple sheets so you don't have to, buy a whole package of them. But 2 sheets cardstock. It can be any color. I prefer black, but get what you can get. These plastic, clear plastic, are also available at copy places because they're used for like report covers, right? If you're printing a report and they're going to bind it, they have that kind of clear plastic. The paper that comes with it, I just keep because it keeps it from getting scratched up, right? And so you're going to be using these as your picture plane to draw on. And to do that, you're going to need a fine point Sharpie, a fine point Expo marker. This is not it. This is a dry erase marker, but it's not what I would recommend. Let's see, there it is. And when our first assignment of using this, we're going to be doing our hand, but I'm going to show you with a regular, dry erase marker, but I want you to find a fine point, right? A smaller, skinnier one, more along the lines of this size, right? But in an Expo marker, a dry erase marker. And so our first thing we're going to be using our picture plane for is we're going to be drawing a picture of our hand, right? And so you're going to clamp your, let me get this from over here. Get a couple of clamps here. You're going to be using this with your viewfinder. So you take your viewfinder and you put it on top of your picture plane, like so. I'm going to get the smaller opening. So you put it on top of your picture plane like so. And remember, there's a front and a back to your picture plane. The side that you use the Sharpie on to make your crosshairs is the back side, right? You don't want to draw on that side. That's the back side of it. So you can see I'm putting a couple clamps on here. Like I said, I'd normally use 4, but I'm just trying to make this as quick as possible. So I'd use 1 on each corner, right? So here I have this piece of plastic. The back side has the crosshairs that I did with a Sharpie permanent marker, right? And then I'm using a dry erase marker like you would use for a whiteboard. Do not use a Sharpie on this, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to take your hand and you're going to pose it underneath like that, right? And you're going to draw the contour of your hand, which means all the basic lines. So I'm going to hold your hand in an interesting way. I do not want to see you just going like this and doing an outline of your hand like that, okay? That's no. This is what I want. Make your hand in an interesting shape. You could go like that. You can go like this, have some fingers curved, so there's some foreshortening. So you see I'm doing like this, right? And so then I'm going to take my marker and I'm going to do outline, and this is where you have to close one eye, okay? This is where you take your binocular vision and make it monovision, right? So you close one eye and you don't want to move. You got to stay from the exact same perspective. And you're just doing the outline of your hand and get some of the interesting lines in it as well. So you notice I have one eye closed. I'm not moving my head, I'm keeping completely still. Right, so I'm doing my fingernails. If I can see my fingernails, I'm doing them, right? I'm doing some of the lines. I'm drawing my rings, right? So you could see it. Okay, so when you're done with it, put it behind a piece of white, put a white piece of white paper behind it and see what you've done. You'll be amazed at how much this looks like a real hand, because guess what? It is a real hand. You just drew a real hand. You drew your own hand. And it looks pretty impressive, doesn't it? It looks like my real hand. It works better with a fine tip. So obviously this is not a fine tip one. But if this is all you can get, it'll work. And you'll have some good success with that. So this is these are the basic things you need to make your picture plane. You can see this is one, let me put it to a back of a white. This is one I did holding a pair of scissors, right? And I think you might remember I showed you, if I can find it. Somewhere here I have a drawing of my hand holding scissors. So let me take a quick look. I'm pretty sure I have it in this sketchbook. It's a demo that I did for class. Oh, maybe it's not in this sketchbook. There it is. So if you look, this is what I started with, right? So here's my drawing of my hand holding a pair of scissors. And this is the finished drawing. So there you can see exactly what the result is. So this is a way, the reason we're using this is it's a way to make three-dimensional objects become two-dimensional for our purposes, and to help you actually draw what you see, and to get that left brain with its symbols out of the way, right? So that's what our goal is. Right? See you next class.